Hi, my name's Bronwyn Jane and I'm a psychic medium and a spiritual coach. Welcome to, again, another video on life as a medium. First of all, let's talk about this shirt. Ganesh, the god of helping us with obstacles. So it's kind of appropriate that unconsciously this was the shirt that I chose to wear today. Because what I want to talk about is the obstacles that present and that we have to maneuver through as a medium. And a medium that is brave enough to be seen, because for a long time I was a medium that wasn't brave enough to be seen. So the more you step forward, the more that you become visible, and whether that is, doing psychic fairs and getting known that way, or online, social media, getting known that way. However the profile or the visibility occurs, with that comes, the common word is trolling, but to me that's not necessarily really fits. While the behavior may be a bit like that, that's not really what's going on for me. It's not how I like to describe it. It's more intolerance. And the intolerance is kind of interesting when we explore it. So the intolerance can show up for a couple of ways. One, it can show up because you may be in someone's arena. So you may be working in an area or even a physical location where other mediums or psychics or energetic workers are working, and they can feel a little bit uneasy by you showing up and being in that space. And so there's an intolerance of sharing and healing together. They don't want to do that. And so they can, behave in ways that don't really align to what we're trying to do. So that's one part of it. And that's a whole rabbit hole we could go into, but it's kind of icky and, to me, a frequency that just feeds the behavior. So I don't want to do that. The other thing that shows up is intolerance due to lack of understanding. Now, that is really common. And it's kind of interesting when we explore what that is, because I'm very analytical, so I will do that. And when I look at that intolerance that I experience when I show up and I try and help and heal and guide, those that maybe are from a particular culture that this, working with energy is normal. They've seen it since they were a small child. Reading energy is normal. There are cultures where this is just part of every day. So it's not unusual, it's not strange, it's not even woo-woo, it just is. There's cultures where, whilst certain genders may not participate in the energy work, they have witnessed their grandmothers, reading coffee cups and scarring that way and sharing their insights that way. And so once again, they've grown up where that activity is normal. There's nothing woo-woo about it. It's just something that their grandmothers or mothers or sisters do. So it's not unusual. They're not threatened by it. But if you grow up in a culture where it is a science-based culture, where science overrules faith or belief systems, that's where that intolerance can show up. That lack of understanding can present where they don't quite understand how it works. It somehow threatens their belief system in science, or even sometimes it can be their own faith. And so because they don't understand, and it's threatening them on a level that they can't actually appreciate because they don't bother to explore it, they don't have the insight to do that and go, why do I feel that I have to respond this way? Instead, they judge and they show up intolerant. Now, we could go into a whole metaphysical rabbit hole about, well, those souls that are new, souls that don't know any better, behave that way. And there is energy around that is not untrue. Like it definitely is. You know, those people that show up in a less evolved way, which I need to find a better word than that because it's so overused, but a less conscious way, a more internal dialogue that's about I and self and that type of thing. When people show up like that, that is often a sign that maybe the number of lifetimes they've had here hasn't been as many as others. And so, you know, that saying about when you see a child and they're an old soul, there's the opposite to that where we see a grown person and then they're not an old soul. You can see based on their behavior that they haven't worked this stuff out at all. So there is that opposite. So sometimes this behavior of intolerance and that thinking of self and I and all those type of things can be attributed to the limited lifetimes that they have had here and therefore the limited opportunities they have had to work things out. So it definitely can apply to that. And then I add on to that the additional layer of if we factor in culture, because even if you're a new soul and then you get to experience these cultures that are exposed to stronger belief systems, faith systems for a very young age, and even cultures that grow up understanding energy more, and it's part of their everyday life. Even if you're a new soul and you go into that environment, because of that experience of how you've grown up, it will sort of awaken you a little bit more than someone that has a soul that hasn't experienced that or hasn't experienced it very often or hasn't done any sort of work even when they've been here. They've just been going through life blindly. There are our intolerance. So the intolerance is kind of interesting too when we explore that because we see that intolerance often. I'm obviously talking about it in regards to my experience of intolerance of energy. But I witness it all the time, the intolerance with other faiths, the intolerance of belief systems, the intolerance of sexuality, the intolerance even of other politics. So that is that belief system as well. And the intolerance is, we need to consider why, if that shows up for us, or even if we witness it. So if an intolerance presents in us, if we feel it rising, why? Why is that making you feel a particular way? You know, why can we not go and see it from another perspective? And only you can answer that why. You know, maybe it triggers things within you. Maybe it makes you question your belief systems, what you felt to be true. And you know, this applies to science. It's a big one with science and faith. They both believe that they're 100% correct, but realistically, they don't understand how much that they actually overlap. So, and that's metaphysics shows that overlapping. We're just waiting for some of this science aspect to really be able to prove it without a doubt, because some people need that proof. So, going off on a tangent, but what I ask you to do is to consider when intolerance presents within you, when you start to judge, which is going into that ego, when we start to do that, why are we doing that? What is it bringing up for us that we have to work on? What is that? So explore that. And if you witness intolerance, explore what you can see and feel around that intolerance. Once again, to understand why that person that is showing up intolerant, why they are. And as we explore these things more and more, it does help us ascend, shift our energy, and once again, that evolved word, but it does. It allows us to be more. And it also helps the collective. The more people that choose to sit in this difficult energy and understand it and see it from other perspectives, the more that does that, the collective consciousness of our world will rise. And that's got to help everybody.